A quick video about planting onions. This is a container garden that I have, some fiberglass tubs that I cut the bottom out of it for drainage and filled with potting soil and well, a mix of potting soil and compost, and several years ago. But planting your onions, I planted these onions in just a week or so after Valentine's Day, so middle of February, toward the end of February, and they are already, this one is almost as big as a baseball, not quite. Not all of them are that big, obviously. Some of them are ping pong size, whatever. But a key that I learned from a friend of mine that is an onion grower, if you're familiar with the Noonday Onion Growers Association, it's like the Vidalia onions. They supposedly they tout themselves as having the sweetest onions in the world. But the way they plant their onions is to just barely stick. We use onion sets around here, which means we don't plant from seed. Someone else plants a seed, and then we buy a bunch of onions. It's a little well, they're about as big as a pencil maybe, and they have a rubber band wrapped around them. Probably 50 of them in a bunch, and we buy. I think they're probably $2 a bunch, $3 a bunch, something like that. But when you put them in the ground, don't put them very deep. He told me this, and it's worked out real well this year. Last year I planted too deep. My onions didn't get that large. This year I can tell that they are going to be, the onions are going to be very, very nice. And just barely put the end of the onion in the ground. You want the roots of the onion in the ground, and maybe just another 1/4 inch or something like that, but very shallow when you plant your onions. If you put them in the ground very deep, the ground, I guess, compacts around them for whatever reason. It doesn't let them expand, doesn't let them get very big. But I've got some other things planted here, some carrots. That's some carrots, and that is some buckwheat that I planted last year that's coming up again, kind of voluntary. But again, some more onions. But just, as you can see, the top of that onion is above ground, and I've got a layer of compost on top of it, probably a 1/2 inch thick. So I just barely put the onion in there. It looked like it was struggling for a while. Looked like it really wasn't going to grow until we started. That's when I put the compost on top, and we started getting a little bit more rain. Or actually, I started watering. We're in a drought situation here. But when you plant onions, if you're planting from sets, barely put the end of that onion in the ground. The roots, when you buy them in a set, it'll have roots on the bottom of the onions, the little onion plants, and just put the roots in the ground and maybe another 1/4 inch, something like that, and then just pinch the dirt around it, pinch it tight around the onion. And then the best thing you do is either throw some hay on top, some finely cut hay, maybe run through a little mulcher or lawnmower or something like that, where you're not throwing big mats of hay on top, or some leaves, some crushed up leaves or something, to kind of give it a little bit of support as it's laying there, or throw some compost on top, and just put compost around the sets, kind of help prop them up, because you're not putting them in the ground very, very deep. But you will get some big onions. I will give you an update on these when we start pulling them. We'll probably start pulling them in about a month, maybe 6 weeks. Around here, I think onions, about the first week of June is when the onions are about as good as they're going to get. So beautiful tops to them. These are 2 feet tall. These tops of these onions, 2 feet tall, and some of them are going to be magnificent, sweet onions. This is a 1015, I think they call it. It's an Aggie onion. It's a white granix. Some people call it a white granix or a yellow granix. I believe all these are white. I might seem like I did throw in some yellow granix also. Granex, I think, or IX. But don't plant your onions deep. Plant them shallow, and it'll do well for you. It's kind of like the old saying about fruit trees. Plant it low, it won't grow. Plant it high, it won't die. Remember that. If you're planting fruit trees, don't plant them deep. Plant it low, it won't grow. Plant it high, it won't die. Okay? Plant your onion shallow too. Plant it high, it won't die. And it'll give you some big onions. Texas Prepper, gone.